Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are, whoever you are. Carlo Pignataro here. I'm extremely pleased to be with you today to discuss a topic which is very close to my heart. Uh, the elements, the ingredients, what it takes to have a successful, long-lasting career in the luxury industry. Well, first off, this year marks the 20th year of my career in the luxury industry. I started with an incredible company called Damiani. At the time, the second largest Italian jeweler after Bulgari, and probably still is. And I started as a sales manager for Europe and the Middle East. And it was an incredible experience for me because I went from working in a different industry to being exposed to the hyper luxury of Place Vendôme literally overnight. And then I have worked in retail, in luxury retail, in the heydays of Dubai, starting in 2004 with another fantastic company called Altair, who's the franchisee and importer of some of the greatest luxury brands in the world at the time, starting from Ferrari to Bulgari to Armani and many, many others. And then I started doing consultancy with two great friends and amazing leaders in the industry, such as Paolo Novembri and Paolo De Luca, until I decided to join Gucci. And after Gucci, I started my own business in training and consultancy. And ever since, the journey has brought me to write books, Sell with Style, the ultimate guide to luxury selling, Serve with Style, customer service in the age of experience, and my latest child, so to speak, the podcast, LUX Tech, in which I try and merge two very important topics in today's public discourse, in my opinion, which are luxury and lifestyle, so what I do, and also technology and science, which are shaping the world we live in. And so over the past 20 years, not only I had a chance to grow my career and learn in the process, mainly from failure rather than success, but also to meet incredible people, some of the greatest names in the industry. And I took the time, because of the research part of my work, and also the way my brain functions. I'm a geek. I like to, do my homework. And so I analyzed the path of some of those greatest names in the industry. And I came up with a number of learnings and elements and tips for whoever is interested today that I'd love to share, that I'm very happy to share, in order to help you start, grow, and have a successful, long-lasting career in the luxury industry. And let's start. So the first one is to not confuse luxury with fashion. Now, there are several great fashion brands that are very legitimately positioned in the luxury segment. I'm thinking of Hermès. Now, it's more accessory than fashion, but fashion is not necessarily and not always luxury. A pair of sneakers priced €1,000 doesn't necessarily mean that you are buying a luxury product. You may be buying an expensive product, but not everything that fashion does is necessarily luxury. And bling bling, whatever bling bling means to you, does not necessarily mean luxury. If you really want to understand luxury, you have to look into the timelessness of a product or a service or a name. That's where luxury sits. That's where luxury is. So it's so very important that you start differentiating the two. Fashion can be luxury, but it's not necessarily always luxury. But fashion has to be trendy. Luxury doesn't necessarily have to be trendy. It can and should be contemporary. It can and should be always new and fresh, yet grounded on its heritage, made of extreme quality, made of clear values, made of a very clear, although evolving identity. So Not everything that Gucci does, for example, is luxury, but every time you have dinner in a 3 Michelin star restaurant, unless they are about to lose the 3 Michelin stars, every time you spend a night in a luxury hotel, that's where you perceive the timelessness of the service, contemporary, but not necessarily always and only trendy. The second thing, you have to develop, if you want to have a long-lasting career in this industry, is a taste, is an appreciation for the finest things in life. Some people may argue, yeah, but I cannot afford the finest things every time. You see, the finest things are not necessarily the most expensive ones. And even if they are, you don't necessarily need to buy them. What I mean is, you don't need to buy a Picasso or Modigliani painting to learn to appreciate it. You can go and see them in a museum. You may need to spend a little bit of money if you want to taste a fine wine. However, when you are obsessed, when you are fascinated, when you are intrigued, when you develop this taste for quality, and you search for quality, and you look for quality, everything you do, every time, in everything you do and every time, that's where you build this appreciation within you. And why do you need it? You need it because luxury is all about appreciation. People are willing to pay premium prices because they appreciate the added value that is offered to them by luxury companies. And so if you don't develop it yourself, if you don't feel it, how can you possibly either offer it to the people you deal with if you are in a customer-facing role, or help thinking about it if you're in a more creative role, or to be part of this success story if you work in other areas within the industry? So, to have an appreciation for art, for music, for poetry, for fine foods, for fine wines, for relaxing time, for great readings, it's really part of what a long-lasting career in luxury demands from you. The third element, which in my opinion needs to be there, is know who you are and be humble. One of the mistakes I see more often is that people who start working for those great, beautiful, amazing, prestigious brands, they stop being humble. Now, let me make it very clear. If you work for Armani, for example, it doesn't make you Mr. Armani. If you work for Chanel, it doesn't make you Coco Chanel. If you work for Ritz-Carlton, that doesn't necessarily make you Mr. Schulze. You have to be humble. You must know who you are, where you come from, and then, of course, embrace the values of this company. Uplift your style to be in line with the company you represent or work with, and enjoy the prestige that working for this company may give you. But don't forget who you are, and don't look down to people who work elsewhere or who happen to buy from you, because that would be the biggest mistake. And so many people make this mistake, and it's such a pity, because if you think about all the great names that have started luxury company, I mentioned Coco Chanel before, the amount of hard work that it took, Giorgio Armani, the amount of failure and hard work and commitment and manual work that it took to create such an incredible name, recognized worldwide. Well, you just don't get there because you've been hired 3 months ago, if you see what I mean. And the people out there, the brand's audience and the customers and the people around you will perceive whether you're just embracing the value of the company or you're taking it as an opportunity to only and exclusively uplift yourself. And that's not good. Another important element, in my opinion, and as per my experience in my research, is to get rid of an efficiency-only mentality. Let me be very clear about this. Efficiency is important. We all want to be efficient in what we do. We all want to cut unnecessary costs. We all want to increase the marginality of all our investments. There's nothing wrong about it. That's how capitalism works, but that's also how life works. You want to be efficient in everything you do in life. But at the same time, you cannot run a luxury business based on efficiency only. Let me give you an example. Mr. Schulze introduced in Ritz-Carlton many years ago what he calls the $2,000 happiness rule, which means that each and every employee of the company is entitled to invest up to $2,000 without previous or prior authorizations from higher management in order to solve a client's problem, in order to make a client happy. So if you happen to be a customer at Ritz-Carlton and you have a problem and you talk about it with anyone in the company, they are entitled to invest up to $2,000 to try and make you happy, to try and solve your problem. Luxury cannot be only about efficiency. Luxury has to be about abundance. It has to be about generosity. Has to be about values. Has to be about opulence, but not the visual opulence, the show-off opulence that many people mistakenly think luxury is. But it's about, pursuing extreme quality. And extreme quality comes at a price. And for this reason, you also have to get rid of a discount mentality. One of the biggest enemies, worst enemies of luxury is discounts. I'm not saying that you don't give discounts at all. It may happen. There are discounts here and there. There are even outlets that sell discounted goods, old collections. But this is not the point. The point is, if your product or service is the outcome of creativity, excellence, commitment, craftsmanship, research, and a clear understanding of who your client is, then you don't want to discount it. Because every time you discount it, or every time you compromise on its position in the marketplace, on the condition you sell it, you're basically saying, you know what, we are compromising. You know what, we are not so sure about who we are and who we address our products and services to. We are not that convinced of the extreme quality that we are offering. And that doesn't work. So, efficiency, cost cut, discount, those are elements. They are part of business and a business life. However, to pursue a career, a long-lasting, successful career in the luxury industry, you have to embrace a different mentality, and you also have to get used to high prices. You have to get used to say no more often than you say yes. I always say when I work with very precious with companies that sell very precious products or services at a high price tag, and you have this customer service associates or sales associates who are not initially used to those price tags, I always tell them, listen, practice it, say it as many times as you possibly can, because once your mouth gets used to the sound of that price tag, once your mind gets used to it, then it doesn't really make a difference anymore. You can say it with confidence, you can say it with enthusiasm, you can say it with strength and power, because you're used to it. And price is not the only element, but is an important element, because a higher price tag is telling the marketplace that this product or this service is not for everyone. It's only for who can afford it, whether financially or intellectually or emotionally or spiritually. But you cannot be luxury and mass market as an approach at the same time. The last element that I suggest you reflect on, and you invest time, energy, and resources if you really want to have a career in the luxury industry. And by the way, there are incredible benefits in working in this industry, and one of which is that you are exposed to the highest level of human ingenuity, to the highest level of pleasantness. You experience things that most people don't experience in their life, and you meet people. Not all of them are the easiest people to deal with, but you meet many people who have done something in their life. You meet many people who know how to appreciate the finest things in life. You meet people with power, the power to make things happen, the power to change their world, and so forth. So there are benefits in having a career in this industry. Yet there's a lot of hard work involved. And the last element to conclude is to try and be always relevant from a cultural point of view. Now, one of the most beautiful words, in my opinion, in luxury is timeless or timelessness, because a luxury product or service stands the test of time. I was in a conversation with the CEO and chairman of Damas recently, Mr. Luc Perramont, who was also a CEO with Hermès. And he told me the story of a conversation he had with Mr. Dumas, the former CEO of Hermès and the owning family. And he told him, see, Luc, luxury is about creating beautiful objects that can be repaired. So, if it can be repaired, and if it's beautiful with time, it keeps being beautiful with time. Timelessness is the key word. But then, although timelessness is part of the game, is a rule of the game, to be culturally relevant is equally important. It's not secret that luxury is linked with art, is linked with theater, is linked with music, and so forth, because there's a higher aspect of what a product or a service needs to deliver, which goes beyond the financials of it, which goes beyond the intrinsic value, the material. And so it's very important that you keep your mind open and your curiosity always on, because you want to make sure that you don't simply focus in what you do. If you sell diamonds, you don't just focus on diamonds. If you are in luxury hospitality, you just don't focus on the industry. If you are a chef in a Michelin star restaurant, you don't spend all your time simply and only thinking about the food you make, but try to give it a wider perspective. Remember that there are cultural elements that need to always be part of what you do. Let me give you an example. Massimo Bottura, the most famous and celebrated Italian chef today, although there are others. He makes beautiful food, great style, very contemporary, very creative. But what Massimo Bottura always does, is to attribute cultural meanings. Every dish has to tell a story. And this story is also part of something that is happening or has happened at a social level, at a cultural level. The same does Enrico Crippa, another 3 Michelin star restaurant in Italy, at Duomo in Alba, in my native region, Piemonte. You don't see a dish, you see a painting. It doesn't take inspiration from other chefs. It takes inspiration from art, from music, from literature, from philosophy, from novels, and so forth. So, let me summarize the ingredients that, based on my experience, based on my research, and based on my observation and analysis of what made some people in the luxury industry extremely successful, you need in order to build, start, grow, and have a long-lasting, successful career in the luxury industry. The first is, don't confuse fashion and trendy and bling bling with luxury. They may be luxury, but they are not necessarily luxury. So be clear about it. The second is, develop a taste and appreciation for the finest things in life. Listen to the best music, not just the music that you're bombarded with from your radio station. Go and search for the great music that was composed over the centuries. Listen to Mozart, listen to Brahms, but also listen to Michael Brecker. Also listen to, I don't know, Steve Vai. There's no genre. It's not a matter of genre. It's a matter of fine musicianship, fine composition. The third element is, be humble. Don't think that working for Chanel makes you Coco Chanel. Be humble. Know who you are. Embrace your company's values. Enjoy the prestige that working with these companies give you, but don't make the mistake of looking down at people because you've started a career in luxury. Luxury is about generosity. And the next step would be to get rid of an efficiency-only mentality. You cannot run a luxury business only based on efficiency. You have to give more than you receive in order to receive more in future. And last but not least, always remember that you and your business have to be relevant at a higher level. Not only good products that are bought at high prices in the marketplace, but something that means something higher to your clientele, which, by the way, is not everybody, because no luxury company wants to sell to everybody, but to a specific niche, because in the end is to know who doesn't need to buy from you is as important than to know who you would like to buy from you. I hope this helps. If you have any ideas, comments, questions that you'd like to share with me, feel free to do it. And I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Same place, same time. Arrivederci.